Hello everyone, my name is Jacob and I am currently sitting in my living room because I wanted to make an introduction video to my channel, to my book channel. So I have a few questions that I found on different YouTube videos, introduction videos, newbie tags or whatever. And a few of them I came up with on my own, just something I want to, get out there in this video. And yeah, maybe you'll get to know me a bit. If it goes as I planned, there will be other videos on my channel at the same time as this one, because while I really like introduction videos to get to know someone, you won't really get to know my content through just an introduction video. To have this video to get to know me and my taste, and then you'll also have other content, more vlogs or whatever, so you can see what the content on this channel hopefully will be like. But of course I'm just beginning, so who knows what will happen, what I'll do in the future. I'm just doing this for fun, just trying it out, so we'll see. It kind of leads us into the first question I came up with. Why did you start your channel? There's a few reasons I started my channel. I think the number one reason is just I wanted to do something with my time, something that felt kind of productive while still being fun. I love reading books. Also, I really liked video production. I haven't done it as much lately, but in school I did a lot of it. We had a lot of assignments with video production and editing and all that, and I really enjoyed it. It takes a long time to make, but I think that's part of the fun, and just occupy my time with something that's not my phone. I've been spending way too much time on my phone lately, so I wanted to try something new, something that will probably be more fun. Hopefully I can meet some new people, or just talk in the comments, or just talk out into the void about my feelings, because I know a few people who read books, but mostly they don't read the same books as me. I don't really get to talk about the books I read. That's why I want to start this, because just getting my feelings out there and talking about the books that I read, and hopefully some of you also read the same kind of books. It's kind of hard because YouTube in general, but also BookTube, has become very not oversaturated, because I feel like when it comes to the different parts of YouTube, BookTube is definitely one of the places where I feel people are very authentic, very nice, just sharing what they read. But there are a lot of booktubers out there, and a lot of it, I don't want to criticize anyone, but a lot of it is very similar content, which I love, but that's just kind of what it is like being on BookTube. Saying that I probably won't come up with a bunch of new cool video ideas and projects and whatever. Probably a lot of the same things you've seen. I'm really not like a high energy, jump around, very passionate. That feels weird to say, I'm not very passionate, but I'll probably be more chill, slow, just, discussing books at the moment. I'm just taking it kind of chill. And my name, I'm not actually quite sure what I'll call this channel. I'm like 99% sure that I'll call it the Reading Goose. My username on different platforms online has been the Yellow Goose for a long time. It's a stupid reason why I got that name, but it's just kind of stuck with me. So why not just use it for my reading channel as well? Don't want to just use my name, because that's kind of boring. I'm not a very fast reader. I do take some time getting through books, but I pick up my book throughout the day a lot. But I don't. I have a problem with sitting for a long time and reading a book. It's usually I pick it up for half an hour, get a few pages in, then do something else, then pick it up a half an hour at a later time. If a book really doesn't grip me, I'm not sitting there reading hours on end, but I do get through books at a relatively normal pace, I would say. I think on average I probably get through 1 or 2 books a week, depends on how long they are. I do really like long books as well, and those I usually spend a lot more time on, because if it's 1,000 pages, I like taking it slow, doing maybe 50 pages a day, and maybe I'll read something else on the side as well. But taking your time isn't really a bad thing when it comes to books. You're letting it sink in, and I'm just not a fast reader. I've always been kind of slow. I guess I can talk about the books that got me into reading. Should I go grab them? Sure, I'll go grab them. Okay, so I guess I will. Okay, I got the books, and I guess I'll tell you the story of how I got into reading. It started in the last year of high school. In Norway, we don't really have high school. We had an assignment where we were asked to pick out a book and write an analysis on it. We were actually asked to pick out 2 books, but not everyone did that. I did that. And I had no idea what I wanted to write about. The only interest I had in reading was Stephen King, because I liked the movies. I liked the new It movie. But my teacher didn't really want me to write an analysis on Stephen King. So she said, I can recommend you a few books. And she recommended me The Trial by Kafka. And she recommended me 1984 by George Orwell. This was the book that got me into reading, to be honest, because I thought, okay, sure, fine, it's not that long. I'll just try and get through it pretty quickly. Because we got the book and then we had a whole vacation to read it and then start writing when we got back. I wanted to start reading and get it over. So I said, okay, I'll read, what did I say, 25 pages a day or 50 pages a day. I thought that I would get through it at an all right time. But then I ended up really, really loving this. There are some parts which I thought were boring, especially there's one part where the main character reads a book within this book. Kind of bored at that part. But mostly I really, really loved this and just showed me what literature can do. It's hard to say that word. It just showed me what a literature could do and what it could accomplish. And it also showed me that stories, not just books, but stories can be more than just plot and characters. They can have meaning, they can say something. Really enjoyed this. Wrote that analysis and compared it to Animal Farm, also by George Orwell. But then came the deciding moment of if I would become a reader or if I would just read that one book and say, okay, that's fine. Many people just read the books they have to read in school and then don't really read anymore. But I decided to pick up a book that I got for my birthday a few years before I read 1984, which was Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. This is Norwegian copy. I'm from Norway. Probably should have mentioned that earlier. Started reading this. I thought it was great. It was exciting. It was, it was very different from 1984. It's kind of slow, really trying to get its point across, while this one was just fun, action, exciting. Really just a great book to start with, even though I started with 1984. I feel like this was the book that actually got me into reading for fun. Got through this and then read the rest of the series, read a few other things, and then for my birthday the next year, I put on my wish list Stephen King books, just any Stephen King books. One of my friends bought me Salem's Lot by Stephen King, and I feel like after this was really the book that just solidified that I love reading. I probably should reread this at some point because I was not used to. This was the first book I ever read in English for fun, because I want to read in the original language. Now I almost only read in English. A reread probably would make me appreciate this even more. I was so proud of myself when I finished this book because, it is quite long. It was, 750 pages just about. This is with a few short stories in the back that's connected to the main novel. Read this, loved it. This is actually, I think this is the scariest book I've ever read. The scene with the kids outside the window was really scary. Remembers being alone at night reading it, and it was actually kind of scary. After 1984, I mostly read the young adult books, and I loved them. But this was just something else. This was more mature. This was scary. This got me into Stephen King, which is now my favorite author. And also got me into horror novels, which is my favorite genre. I'm currently reading Head Full of Ghosts by Paul Tremblay. So no, this really just made me the reader I am today. And I'm grateful for this novel and for my friend that got it for me. My favorite genre is horror novels. I love horror, anything, horror movies, horror TV shows. What more horror things are there? Horror decorations. Other than horror novels, I read mostly classics and fantasy. I got Warbreaker from a friend for Christmas one year, and that really got me into epic fantasy and the Cosmere, while classics is more hit or miss for me. I read a few classics that I really, really hated, thought was a struggle to get through, but also a lot of my favorite books of all time are classics. Horror novels, classic novels, fantasy novels, probably the three genres, if you can count classics as a genre. Three genres I read most. Also read a bit of short stories, but those also go mostly under horror. It's hard for me to explain why I love horror so much, because when I think about it, it sounds insane, like you just like seeing people in horrible situations. But there's something about it. Maybe it's the atmosphere. Maybe it's actually being able to see what's happening instead of like in crime books or movies or thrillers or whatever. It's mostly just something has happened. Okay, we need to figure this out. While in horror movies or books or whatever, you actually get to see what happens and how awful the antagonist or monster can be. Or you can relate to the antagonist more, because you see more from his perspective. Maybe even though he's a villain, maybe you can see why he does what he does and relate to him more. But also it's just atmosphere, characters. I feel like characters, you connect to characters when they're in so dire situations, but it's hard to explain. It's I get why people don't like horror, because try to explain to someone 400 years ago why you enjoy being scared while not being in any danger. I guess it doesn't make sense, but a lot of people love it. And with classics, I don't know, maybe it's just because they're handpicked, so you know that these classics, even if you don't like them, you know that these classics have been handpicked through years. A lot of people like them. It has been analyzed. It has been read and loved by so many people. But as I said, some classic novels are really just bad. I shouldn't say bad. It just wasn't for me, or I didn't understand them, or what they were trying to say. Because who am I really to judge that class, or to judge any book really? The only things I've written are like short stories and assignments for school. Of course, I can have my own opinion, and for fantasy novels, I guess I just enjoy the whole new world, everything being new and exciting, completely different world, completely different characters, while still getting across something human, I guess, because the reasons I read books are either to find a story I relate to that I can learn from. I feel like I've experienced some of the things the story is talking about. I can learn from the experiences the characters have in the books. Or it is to feel something completely different, to be in another world, escape this world and experience something I could never experience in real life. And fantasy really gets both of those, because we're in a completely different world, completely different rules, completely different species, worlds, everything, while still it's always getting something human across, just in epic proportions. If I can say that, take the Stormlight Archive, for example. I know that everyone loves the Stormlight Archive, but while it is a completely different world, the books are big tomes, a lot of information, a lot of things happening. It's still always about the characters and the human aspects of them. And I really appreciate that with fantasy. If we're going to move on to the books I don't really read, there's a lot of genres I don't really read. I guess the biggest one is non-fiction, which is like, it's not really a genre, it's just a different type of book. But don't really have the interest in non-fiction. I think that I just need to find a non-fiction that actually would fit my taste. I feel like a lot of them are biographies or self-help, and I really don't care for biographies or self-help, and I really just never had an interest in reading a non-fiction book. Maybe it's because of school, where you're forced to read just non-fiction, really. The one fiction book I read got me into reading, while all the non-fiction we read really made me not want to read. I guess another genre that I haven't really read is romance novels, but I really do love romance movies, rom-coms, and they're very comforting. I love them. It's very cozy. Well, some of my favorite movies are romance movies, you know, La La Land, 500 Days of Summer, even Notting Hill. I love Hugh Grant. He's a great actor, one of my favorites. So I want to read romance books, I just haven't done it yet. And I'm kind of scared because I feel like a rom-com should just be, I'm thinking in movies now, it should just be 1.5 hours, maybe 2 hours. Longer than that, I feel like it's getting dragged out. But with novels, it takes a lot longer than just 2 hours to read. So I'm afraid I'll get bored halfway through and just not feel invested in the characters or their relationship. But we'll see. You know, I haven't been reading for long. I started reading about 2 years ago, I guess. A little over 2 years ago, actually, I think. So, you know, I'm still really new to this. I haven't read a lot of novels. So we'll see what happens. I want to show my bookshelves in this video as well, but before we do that, I wanted to just show my favorite book of all time. I don't have a hard time saying that. I'm not like, oh, it's so hard to pick my favorite. Oh, no, it's this one. This book is the only book where I felt what I felt when reading this. It's almost like its own feeling. I related to the characters, love the atmosphere. Not really a lot of plot to talk about, but still I loved it. And there are things that I can nitpick with this book, but it's just a feeling I have that this is my favorite. No other book has gotten close. And that's Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. I have the movie tie-in with the, what is it called? With it's not a sticker because you can't remove it. I guess it just printed up an ad printed on there, which I do. I love the TV series. The reason I read the book was because I watched the TV show on Netflix, and I love that so much that I just had to read the book. I see that the lighting is going, so I'll be fast. Love the TV series so much I grabbed the book, and I freaking loved it. Even though it's so short, in the text, you know, there's not a lot of text on each page. Still, this packed a punch, and the last few pages just made me feel hollow inside. And I was on board from the first few chapters, man. When she's driving to Hill House, I just imagining all the different lives she could live in these different houses, and that's just, I just love it how she wrote it. Shirley Jackson, her prose are just amazing. Her characters mostly are amazing, and I could just relate to that, the daydreaming, thinking of other lives you could live. I guess I should just say the book is about a researcher who gathers a team of people who have experienced hauntings or supernatural occurrences, and asks them to stay in Hill House, which is a supposed haunted house, to research the supernatural. The first few chapters, they're not boring, but you know, they're kind of just getting into it. But then, you know, just after 30 pages, I was so into this. Loved it from there until the end. So many iconic scenes in this one. I have not seen the movies that actually follow the book, just seen the TV show. They are very different. Mike Flanagan, who made the TV show, changes a lot of things. Some of them are for the better. I don't know what I prefer over the book or the TV show. They're kind of different, so it's hard to choose. You know, the first paragraph already, iconic. And when she gets to Hill House, hand-holding scene, the car scene at the end. There's so much about this book that I love related to the characters. I think it's probably the best book when it comes to exploring loneliness and anxiety. You know, she just wants to be accepted. Loved it. I recommend everyone read this. The things that happen in the house are scary, but the scariest things are the things that are happening with Eleanor, the main character. Okay. That was all the questions I had prepared, or all the topics I had prepared for this video. Before I leave, I just want to go through my bookshelves. I don't have like one bookshelf where I have all my books. That's why I would love to be filming in front of a bookshelf so it would have this nice backdrop, but I don't have that. So I'll just take a quick round now, show you the books, and after that I guess the video is over. So I'm starting at bookshelf that's in the living room. Not all of these books are mine. Most of them are. This is kind of my classics shelf. These ones are not mine. This one is a Norwegian copy of, what is it called in English? Lovely by Toni Morrison. I haven't read it. Really want to get it soon. We have the first Harry Potter, but most of these are bought used. Haven't read it. Norwegian copy again, bought it used. I'll read it at some point, but it just looked really nice. Not mine. 1984. Already talked about that. Not mine. This is Anne Frank's diary in Norwegian. I've not yet read that because I'm really interested in World War II, but I become really sad when I read or watch things about it. Emily Bronte, Wuthering Heights, one of my favorite classics. The Great Gatsby in Norwegian again. Got this from a free little library. Haven't read it yet. Alice's Adventure in Wonderland Through the Looking Glass. Have read Adventures in Wonderland and not Through the Looking Glass. Not mine. These are Nightmare on Elm Street DVDs, so we can just skip over them. Pamela, I bought for school, read about half of it. It was kind of boring. Count of Monte Cristo I got for my birthday. Haven't gotten to it yet. East of Eden, probably maybe my favorite classic other than Running of Hill House. Dark Tales, Shirley Jackson, another great one. Picture of Dorian Gray. Just to say before I move on, short story collection. I do like the Lottery and Other Stories collection, also from Penguin Modern Classics more, but it has some great ones in here. Picture of Dorian Gray, haven't read yet. Jane Eyre got about halfway through, and then I got really busy, so I have not finished it yet. Stoner by John Williams, have not read yet, excited to. Brave New World by Aldous Huxley, if that's how you say his name, read it. Thought it was alright. It reminds me of 1984, but still very different. You know, it's alright. Tale of Two Cities, Bleak House and Supernatural Stories by Charles Dickens. I haven't read any of those yet because I got them very recently. Henry James, Turn of the Screw and the Aspern Papers. I bought this mostly for the Turn of the Screw, which I've read and is phenomenal. Classic ghost story. Kind of hard for me to understand everything that's happening because it's some hard words and English is not my native language, but loved it. Something Wicked This Way Comes, also read, really good. Hobbit, not gotten to that yet. This is some random Agatha Christie book I got for like $1 or 10 Norwegian crowns, I guess. Wuthering Heights again, this time in English. Pride and Prejudice, haven't read yet. This also is, I guess I'll move that. Most of these books are not mine. Maybe you can see which ones are mine. I'll go through them. Collection of short stories by H.P. Lovecraft. I read a few of them. I really like them. It's just kind of hard sitting down and reading short stories. The same here with the complete tales and poems of Edgar Allan Poe. This may be my favorite book that I own. It's so beautiful, and I read quite a few of the poems and short stories, and love them. Dr. Sleep by Stephen King, also read, and I liked it. Bazaar of Bad Dreams by Stephen King, haven't read yet. Gerald's Game I haven't read yet. 4 Past Midnight I haven't read yet. Yeah, all 4 of these I got used. And then we have Holly. Have not gotten to it yet, but I have read every other story with Holly in it. So I'm completely caught up, except this one. And then I have Fairy Tale. Tried it, really, really loved. I know people kind of like the first part, and then the second half, not really a big fan of, but I loved all of Fairy Tale. Such a beautiful cover as well. Down here, Dreamcatcher, haven't read yet. If It Bleeds, I read very recently and really liked all of the stories. Revival, haven't read yet. Words of Radiance, I have read. One of my favorite books of all time. Definitely my favorite Stormlight book. And then we have this book that I found in the attic. The Dracula Book of Great Vampire Stories. There actually is one from Bram Stoker in here, I think. I haven't read any of them yet. I haven't even read Dracula yet. But I'll get to it. Yeah, this is the last book in Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. I've read most of these from the library, but they didn't have this one at the library, so I had to buy it. And I think it's nice to own one of the novels at least, so just as a memory that I've actually read it. And just the covers of these books and the spines, really so nice. I really love those books. Definitely the first 3 books are better than the last 3, but I recommend all of them. Dracula by Bram Stoker, haven't read it yet, really excited to read it. Arcanum Unbounded by Brandon Sanderson. Read a few of the stories, haven't read all of them yet. Here is just a really messy bookshelf where most of the books aren't mine. But this one, The Book Thief, is mine. This is Mystery by Stephen King. The Dark Tower 1 and 2. I also have English copies of Mystery and The Dark Tower. These ones I just got used. The whole Percy Jackson series. Behind here, Warbreaker, my first Brandon Sanderson. My first real fantasy, really. And then we have this very nice cover of Salem Slot, which I also got used. I really love this version. Here we have a bunch of CDs. The first 4 Dark Tower books. Some of them are not in this house, they're at my grandmother's house. I have quite a few books actually at my grandmother's house, because I lived there for a year and I have not brought them. The 3 last Dark Tower books, haven't read them, just read the first 4. This is Under the Dome, but I didn't know it was split up in 2. This is part 2, which really doesn't help me at all. Danse Macabre, Bachman books, with Rage, actually. That's the only one I read from this, is Rage. Billy Summers, which I actually got from my dad, but when he finished it, he gave it to me again. The Institute, Rose Matter, Skeleton Crew, From Buick 8, and Elevation. You know, it's mostly Stephen King in here. And also Gardens of the Moon, I have not read it yet. I will get to it. Haunting of Hill House, already talked about that. Annihilation, I read. Really liked it, want to continue the series. And here I have the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy books. These 3 are Norwegian. This one I got from a little free library. Here, a lot more Stephen King, but we'll get to it. Nosferatu by Joe Hill. This one I got a little ways in. Then I forgot it at this house when I went back to my grandmother's, and I just haven't gotten around to finishing it yet. But I did really like what I read. 11/22/63, Pass of Morning. I really want to read some, so I'm all caught up for Stormlight 5. The Blade itself, and Before They Are Hanged. Read this. Want to get to this soon. Lost Metal, haven't read. Full Dark Stars, I haven't read yet. Sunlit Man, I read, really liked. Stephen King, Just Before Sunset. Kind of hard to see the title right there. Just After Sunset, it's called, sorry. The Shining, I read. The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon, read in my reading blog, so you can check that out. Dolores Claiborne, haven't read. Samstar, I talked about. Firestarter, I love Firestarter. one of my favorite Stephen King books. Christine, I haven't read yet. Needful Things, haven't read yet. Cell, I haven't read yet. Dumaki, I haven't read yet. These two I got for my birthday just about a month ago, so I haven't had too much time. But these I've had for a little while, so I have no excuses there. Pet Cemetery is kind of, I've been saving it because I've read most of the great Stephen King books. I mean, it's what people say are the great Stephen King books. You know, The Stand, It, Shining, Salem Slot. So I just want to have this one when I really feel ready for it. So I haven't read that yet. That Shift, I read a few of the stories, and here we have Under the Dome, the whole novel, not just part 2. And then we have The Colorado Kid. Ignore All the Mess, but we have Name of the Wind, haven't read yet. The Outsider I have read. Really excited to get to The Name of the Wind. Even though I heard mixed things, I just still really want to read it. And then here we have most of the books that I have finished. The Stand by Stephen King. These one are actually my dad's, so I haven't read them yet. Norwegian copy of Jane Eyre. Joyland, really liked. Eyes of the Dragon is alright. Dr. Sleep again. The Green Mile, Carrie, Home Before Dark, my first and favorite Riley Sager book. I've only read 2. Dr. Sleep again, The Talisman, Way of Kings, Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. Okay, the light is leaving soon. The sun sets pretty early nowadays in Norway. So I'm gonna say that's it for this video. Or I'll put up a picture of the books that's not at this house. I'll put them up somewhere here. You can look at them if you want, or you can ignore them if you want to. Thank you for watching, and maybe I'll see you again. I am Jacob. Goodbye.